Welcome to the Builders Podcast, episode 130, David Van Beekum, the story behind Tweva, patents, funding, and rethinking local advertising. Before we jump into this episode, please subscribe to this podcast, hit that notification bell if you're on YouTube, and after a listen, please give us a thumbs up, like, and share, if we've earned it. With your help, we can reach more people and deliver these valuable from the trenches lessons to those that need it. Enjoy the episode. Today, we are joined by Dave Van Beekum. Welcome to the show, Dave.
Hey, thanks for having me, Matt.
We didn't have any technical problems this time. This is our second start. You know, technical things happen with podcasts, and I didn't have to say that, but, you know, I want you to know how organic
that's like the world of tech, though, isn't it? Like, there's always some problem, some bug you got to fix somewhere. We were just talking about that, too.
Yeah, and restarting is always the answer.
It was listening to us. Like, the computers were like, yeah, you want a bug right now? Go ahead. Just start it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's right. So anyway, so Dave he is a co-founder of Tweva, right?
Yes.
And an inventor, an author, a tech enthusiast, and a patent holder.
Oh, yes. The patents. Yes. Oh, the complex world of the patents. Oh
man.
Years to wait to see what happens with a patent.
So we're going to get to know Dave today, and then he's going to talk about what he does. Probably a lot of tech stuff related into this one. And we're also going to touch on possibly one of the topics I'm interested in is funding and stuff for businesses and getting the funding and the challenges you're facing specifically, Dave, around that. We've had that conversation when we first talked. So
what the whole market falling apart? You know, that part, like the whole
stuff like that. Yeah, stuff like that, or making things really complicated.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So what we do like to do here on the Builders, where we start things off, especially when it's the first time on, is to have you talk about your story, Dave. Give us a glimpse of how you got started, or how and who influenced you over the years, how you got interested in, number one, tech, I guess, and number two, being an entrepreneur and building businesses and all that. Was that something that started when you were really young? Was there a particular person in your life that influenced you? With that, I will hand it over to you for a few minutes.
All right. Thanks, Matt. Yeah. So mine starts like way, way, way back when I was a kid. I mean, as early as I could remember, my dad loved sound and audio. And I guess whatever beginning tech was in the 70s. So, he had a Macintosh amplifier. He built his own huge speakers for, doing like school graduations, some school and church events. And he was just liked to tinker with that stuff. But he was also an electrical contractor. And he worked for several companies that, he built, the electrical lines for these machines. And I didn't realize I'm been telling people a story about my past for quite a few podcasts. And I asked my brother, I said, why was all that equipment in our garage? Like, why was there a pneumatic pump on this metal shelf, and then a 3-phase 480 volt motor over here? Like, what was going on that we had access to this stuff? And he's like, oh, you don't realize Dad was helping that research and development firm, and they would go try to build something, and then if it didn't work, they just kind of like, what are we going to do with these parts? And half of them they threw in the trash. So I guess he just had picked out all these, there would be a clean room switch with a clean room grommet on it, and he'd be like, oh, that's $100 switch. I didn't know this. But connecting a battery with an LED, I mean, I could get the LED to turn it on and off. So this was early, like 8, 9, 10 years old. And then eventually I dug through the basement where we had an old video mixer, like RCA cord, old composite video, multiple VCRs. I remember having a reel-to-reel in my room. So what I'd done and just picked out all this stuff and put it in my room and started creating a little studio. 16 channel Mackie board, connected with all this stuff. And so it started very young in that tech world, but I didn't really go into creating content and media like from that. I just went right into computers and programming. And I think a lot of people kind of did that in the late 90s. They got into computer programming, and I started a small web design firm and was doing that for a long time until a couple years ago when I met a few of my partners, and we were starting to develop a mobile app and website for food distribution of smaller distributors. And then we eventually came up with the idea of Tweva, where we could advertise, the first solution that we built. So that's many, many years in there, but a broad overview of the nerdy background that I had.
That's fantastic.
Growing up.
So yeah. What was the did somebody talk you into do, like you were doing stuff, did the agency, web design agency basically, or would you call it an agency?
Yeah, more of like smaller projects. I don't know about it as large as an agency, but small little startups I would help build out, and yeah.
And how did you get started with that? Did somebody give you did you work for other people before you got into that stuff, or?
No, I kind of worked just once in a while. Like my dad was self-employed, so we would go in and at an early age again, my son can help network. So I'd build by putting Cat5 in a wall somewhere, and so I was like, hey,
gotcha.
You're in tech. Can you help me with the website? And so it kind of just started that way. Then got into smaller, like small-based software stuff, but it eventually, web design can work anywhere. So when I moved from New Jersey to Florida, I could take my remote clients with me and kind of left off the physical, got to go into the office, work.
Right. Nice. Yeah, I actually had a recent guest, same thing. Like my dad too was kind of a nerd and into tech stuff and electronics, and I don't know where this came from, because he was in the military for like 7-8 years. I don't know if it was from that or where along the lines, but he had like a box full of like these big 3-ring binders full of like just electronics, learning how to do electronics. It was just, all this detailed specs and how to build all this stuff. And I remember as a kid going through that and like, this is kind of cool. And, but then, we had computers and then he would get me tech stuff. He'd get me, I actually just dug something up. I had an old box still. I don't know why I still have it. It's literally 40 years later. It was like a little electronic set where you was that
the one with the springs on it?
Yeah, I think it has springs on it.
I was literally just thinking of that when you were telling me about it. I was like, I should bring that up. I remember playing with that when I was a kid.
Right.
You can make the little radio and the transistor radio and stuff.
Yeah, you could do you had little projects, like a project book, and you could go through it and So then I had an uncle who was also legitimately his job was in electronics or whatever, and helped me build like a little robot for science fair. But cool. So I kind of got that kind of tech kind of foundation as well from the father. So that's kind of interesting how yours kind of inspired you, but he was doing a lot more, I think. In that my dad worked for John Deere and was working with giant measuring machines and measuring things by the millionth of an inch. He would always talk about it. Your dad's probably the same way, right? Always talking about what he's doing.
They love the tech side. He couldn't work in the electronics part, but he would always be fascinated with, bringing the 120 or 220 lines into these machines. Would have the little eye piece to watch the part go down and then flick it this way if it was, this color or that color. But all the 80-20 aluminum, if that expensive, the adult erector set, I think they call it, right, for industrial things. And so that was just fascinating to him. And so he would build things for Boy Scouts. We built the first digital, what was those cars that go down, the Pinewood Derby cars?
Oh, right. Yeah, I did some of that. Yeah.
way back when he had, talked to somebody and, hey, can you use these eyes that I've seen at work, measure the time that that all 3 cars land at the bottom, and then put a stoplight, a red, a yellow, and a green on the opposite side so everybody watching can see who's first, second, and third. Oh, well, we
sweet.
need a magnet up at the top. So we put a magnet up at the top to start the timer. Didn't stop there. And then they said, oh, can we have a computer program to put it all in? So I'm like sitting there as a kid going, okay, this is cool. This is neat. I love, and I just got a passion for that.
Well, see, that's interesting. What's really fascinating about that is knowing what you do now and all the ideas you have and stuff. That's like foundational for you got that from your father, where it's like you're sitting there watching somebody come up with ideas and ask questions and be creative and because tech is a creative endeavor as well. Trying all these different weird ideas, like why can't we do this? Let's try that. So that's very cool. That really set the pace for you in life, I think.
Yeah, it definitely did. You don't realize it at the beginning, but now when you find a project that you work on all these different aspects, I'm like, wow, that Mackie board in my room. Okay, I remember that piece. Oh yeah, I did have a little transmitter that I found like in the kids area when I was 10 or 12. It was a transmitter receiver to make your own like broadcast. And so I took the transmitter out, out of the mono out or the audio out. Hey sister, turn on 93.2, and she could hear what I was producing down the hall. And I'm thinking like,
oh, wow.
I never really remembered that until you start thinking of, okay, I'm going to produce content or I have to talk about what happened how many years ago. But a lot of things, they're there for a reason, and it's really neat when you can kind of combine all those together and use it.
Yeah, especially when that day it gels for you. Because for me too, it was, and I had kind of an artistic background. I was actually trying to be an artist in my early 20s. But then that tech background, the art, and my love of computers, and then the internet, and then one day I ended up web design and development, where I'm using my creativity and the tech and all that stuff so it just kind of just landed. It all just came together at one point. So that's really cool. Yeah,
it's fun.
So then,
web design is fun. You get to build, work with different people and their creative mind and your creative mind. I'm sure it helps you being in the artist background too, because sometimes for me, I might be in the tech, but I don't have that vision,
Yeah, it does come into play. It don't always translate perfectly. I tried to I've done a lot of things in my life. I painted houses for a while. I had Matt's painting and repair for a couple of years. Okay. And I thought, well, I can paint on canvas. I can paint a house, but it's not a one-to-one translation there. There's more things you have to know about painting on different surfaces and all that stuff. But the same with, you get translating a design on a computer is a little different too, in colors.
It's about seeing what's not there almost, right?
Yeah. But it's also, I think, like kind of school, it's not so much those specific skills, but it's learning how to learn or how to apply those things, how to think is probably at the core of those things, right? It's once you can solve problems over here, and that can translate. How do I solve problems over here? And especially in business, there's always something or new ideas that come along. How can we do that better or whatever? So that's very cool. Yeah. So it's kind of interesting. I didn't know you were into web design development. So that's
years and years and years and years ago. And then I got to the point where I was like, okay, I've learned a lot of these tools and stuff changes so quick. That was one of the, I've had 16, and I remember 16 projects in a month. And I was like, I just need to partner or build a startup, because startups years ago were not a thing. But I was like, we just got to partner with somebody, build a project. And that's kind of led me away from the web design to saying, okay, I'll build a website, but can somebody go take that marketing piece and run with it? But I didn't realize you need a huge team to do that. Not only the partner, but a marketing and a money and a networking, and it's complicated. It really is complicated.
Building a business, doing all that stuff. Yeah, it's not just building a website. Yeah.
No. I thought it
I'm hoping
was,
that.
right? You think more like, oh, well, if I build a system and it's easy to do this and this and this, that would then translate into eventual $10 million. But it doesn't unless you put a lot of these pieces together and the timing, right? And.
Right, and timing is always important too. So I mean, so you found a partner, and so what were you trying to build then? So you were doing web design development for other people, and you got all these projects going. And you're going to build your own thing. What is the idea there? You're building, more specifically, are you building a website system for other people, like a system for them to just deploy a thing and do that and do everything, or are you talking about a website for yourself that you can then promote your own product or your own service, or what are we talking about specifically there?
Well, we were trying to change the way that small businesses order food from one or more distributors. So if one distributor
Okay.
could sell, let's say, 10 or 15 ingredients, and where are they located and why are they pricing their food at this price? And what about another distributor? Are they more local? Do they have a quick drop from, a bigger truck somewhere nearer to that location, and they could possibly save 5%? And for a small business, because they're not ordering in bulk, it really matters to them.
Yeah.
If you're a franchise and you have like the little bit of leverage to that food company or the rep that sits in between them, you have a little like, hey man, I'm ordering for 5 restaurants, give me a deal. Otherwise I'll take it somewhere else. So we
Right.
figured, okay, let's digitize the process of the rep, give him control of every single product that goes through, and then track how many times they purchase that specific product, put it onto a grid sheet and give them a cost analysis calculation of, hey, I ordered this every 3 months, and this other guy, he's more local. I might get my lettuce from him, and I might get my chicken from you over here. You have the remaining pieces, and well, you're still 5% more than the other guy. So you got to work with me now, right? And so we wrote a patent on it for many years. We went back and forth, and this if it comes in this way, you've ordered a product, and then another distributor has one. Can we ping that distributor? But it's very complicated. It's very, very complicated to build a complex piece of software, but they were in the food industry, so they understood it. But then also to bring that to market and then not scare too much of the market into, hey, this is a digital version of a rep, but may help that person expand. If he can only deal with 30 or 40 relationships now, can we bump him to 60 to 70? Right? Because there's human problems when he's like, oh, give me 5 pounds of tomatoes and 20 pounds of potatoes. Well, if I'm taking line by line, I might write the opposite. So then the order comes in tomorrow. I'm missing wine, and you got me 20 pounds of potatoes and 5 pounds of tomatoes. So you're trying to fix a couple of problems there. Again, if you're serving a franchise of 10 and a small business, guess who gets the raw end of the deal? It's most of the time the smaller business. So we spent a while on that project building it out, and then we said, okay, let's market this using the Tweva, where we can access those companies where their TVs are on all day. So that's kind of how that.
Okay.
I went from the multiple projects to focusing and becoming very complex.
Yeah.
In
So let's get to Tweva in a second though. So this is a piece of software then that they can use, that small businesses can use, or restaurants that need anyone that needs suppliers or has suppliers or that type of thing. And so you talk about a patent. I'm just curious about that because I don't think we've talked much about patents on this program.
Yeah.
What was that process like? Now you develop something very unique and you want to protect it. So where do you start with that?
So if I think back that many years back, you have to kind of create an outline of, for that project, you have to create an outline of what you're looking for, and then find a lawyer that wants to spend enough time to understand how it's different than somebody else, and that also can work around some of the pieces of the law. Like, I think there's something where you can't patent necessarily a piece of software unless there is a certain unique aspect to it that is very different from somebody else. So going into it, when you're in that research side, you can't just say, well, I want to display this on the screen. You have to say, I want to display it on the screen, but it has 5 points of variables that could possibly change. So like for us, it would be a location of the restaurant could be at one location, and then they could have 5 different distributors. So that would be another set of variables, and those distributors could be at different locations also. And they could have priced tiers in there. So like if you buy 500 from me, you get a 1% discount. If you buy 1,000 from me, right? And then how are you going to display that on a screen? Has to be unique. So it can become complicated and expensive because, okay, you package the whole deal up and you send it to the office, and then they'll go rejected. That's like the first thing. I think they just have a big denied label that they stamp it because they know the lawyers or something, and the lawyer's like, okay, $3,000 every time we get denied, we get to write a rebuttal for it.
Oh, yeah. There's some behind the scenes deals going on there.
Yes.
At least reject it 3 or 4 times for me, please.
Yes, that's literally what it was. 3 or 4 or 5 times, and so each time you have to explain why mine is different than this other person's, or why it just is different in general. Why isn't this just something that 5 websites are doing? And you have to do this all in the first year of, you can't develop a product like 3 years ago and then just patent it 3 years later. It can only be in market for up to 1 year.
Oh, wow.
Because otherwise the idea can be out there. So, and that's highly risky because now, okay, well, is it unique? Is it not? Right? I have this idea. Should I spend $25,000 and just get a patent on it? Plus. So it's
well, you don't even know because you want to you're thinking about getting a patent. You have to put the money up front to get this patent, whether you get it or not.
Yes. Yep. And then recently, Elon Musk just says, I don't care about patents. Patents are a lottery ticket for lawsuits. So he just has so much money that he just pushes forward with technology, gets it done, and then eats up the market share. And he could just either acquire somebody, but he's not sitting in court fighting patents. So you risk that, but the patent attorney isn't saying that. They're saying, okay, you want protection, you should do this, right? So you're always in this, I don't know if it's a good idea, but it could be. What if it does get closed? Could somebody just change one thing and still get around my idea? It's complex.
Yeah, it's hard to get straightforward answers from people that are making money from you.
Right. Yeah. So you kind of have to go at it and say, well, if we're going to spend this much on the development, how much do we want to protect it? Yep.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I remember Elon Musk, said something similar. I don't. It was probably some different context, but he was talking about patents and he didn't like patents. So it's interesting.
I'd be surprised. I would think he would be eating them up every day, signing another one, in that.
Wasn't like other companies like Google and stuff, I remember always had patents for things.
Yeah, Apple's always putting them out, and it's like, let me see what Apple might be doing with their Retina patent, and they're somebody's making a video about Apple's, it's not even a revision, but it's like a request for a patent. And they could send those out all day long, and then hopefully they send 200, they might get 50 that actually are approved.
Wow. Is there an expiration on patents? You got to renew it?
I believe it's 20 years. I believe it's about 20 years. And you can renew it after that because you have protection. But the idea of a patent is to kind of, as my attorney said, first, like you have your house, so you're going to get your backyard protected. And then you're going to try to go back and say, hey, I want 20 feet outside of my backyard. That would be your second patent. And then you grow out. You don't go and say, I want to patent the whole neighborhood. Right? So you try to get it on a piece of what you do, and then you grow it over time. So you're not just supposed to get a 20-year patent and sit back and say, I'm done.
And then as you expand, why do I feel like was reading a news piece about somebody related to this? But as you expand, because there was a patent that expired. What was that? Someone was in the news. The patent was expiring, but then they like created another patent that kind of that didn't make it available to the public then for some reason, because it built on the other one or something. It extended it.
Well, patents can be secret for 2 years, or I think they can be secret a little bit longer than that until they're either accepted or rejected. So like for the first 2 years, nobody knows if you have it, and you don't know if they have theirs, which is yet another highly risky thing. Like 5 people could be patenting into all at $25,000. And that's just like, that's my little thing. But you're talking about a big company like Apple or Google.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's a 25,000. I think 250,000. Right?
Probably, yeah.
Like, we made too much this year in taxes. Let's put 10 million in the patent account and just fluff it up.
There you go. They probably can. Yeah, they can probably do that. Wow. Yeah. Wow, interesting. Yeah, learned some about patents today.
I learned a little bit like that for Tweva. So we got patents on that one, and then we write another one for Tweva, and you learn a lot about it, and maybe it takes a little less time, but it's in a completely different industry, so it's still different, but you understand patents more.
Yeah. It's going to bug me the rest of this whole podcast when we're trying to think of what I just read something. Anyway, so let's move on. Okay, so let's move towards Tweva here. So first of all, now something happened in your business. You lost somebody. Yes. And when did that happen? You started Tweva, which we'll talk about in a minute. Was he with Tweva, or this whole journey he's been on with you, or?
Yeah,
tell me a little bit about him.
He was there, and he kind of was the spark idea of doing Tweva, like the very initial. I mean, we would all sit together in a room developing and sharing ideas and stories, eating Chipotle, and like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And we would come up with ways that we could help the small business on that local level, because all the franchisers are growing up around us. What can we do? What can we do to help? So one of his main things was, when I'm at the restaurant, I'm telling, let's say a plumber comes in. Oh, I just was talking to somebody who had a leaky pipe or a problem with their toilet or their shower. And so he could connect them when he was there. But when he wasn't, he'd say, oh, go put your business card up at the front. And you've been to those restaurants, right, where there's a few business cards, like 3 or 4. But doesn't have a high success rate, I'm sure, of people picking them, maybe 1 or 2. But so he said, hey, if we could put them on a TV, that would be awesome. So that's kind of how it started, saying like, well, there isn't really a way to go to that pizza shop down the street and put me up as a plumber. Okay, let's go with that. And so that's literally how it started.
Wow. And then when did what happened to him?
So that was 2018, 2019. So he passed away about a year ago.
Passed away. Yeah.
So he was along for the ride for all, the patent and everything until about a year ago.
Right. Wow. And again, I'm sorry to hear that you lost him. Because he probably was a great friend as well, not just a partner. He sounds like a
great friend, energetic, very, go get him. Many restaurants. He wouldn't tell me exactly how many he had, because he's like, if people know how much you have, they try to come after you. So he would always try to build relationships with as many people as he could without saying like, I'm a big wig. He would just try to.
That is something we were talking about our fathers earlier. That is something my father instilled in me when I was really young. He's like, never let anybody know what you all have.
Really?
I was just
Well, it's like the complete opposite of what you see today, of everybody bragging, look what I have, and then when he passed away, it was, oh yeah, he used to have these 6 builders or something, and he built 6 homes a year, private. He had his hands in all these different things, and I think in his mind he thought, okay, well, this is a piece that hasn't been fixed in technology. Can we fix this issue?
Yeah.
So
So I'm curious, like, how does that impact you? That must have been, I mean, obviously it was earth shaking for your business, or you're on this path together. Was it something that was sudden, or were you leading up to it, planning for it, or,
Yeah,
and
he was sick. He had cancer, but he was actually on the recovery road, and then like almost back to normal. And then it was a quick 30, 60 days where he got really sick. So we were in kind of like a holding pattern, like, okay, well, we don't know. And then it was oh my word, what, what, what
just happened.
and being that network side, I was heavy in the tech, right? And my partner, he's in tech too, and he's in restaurants. But the one who passed away was I would feel in the marketing world to be the one to bring it to market. So then you start thinking about all the pieces that you have to do to then, I don't know, think about like, what do you have, 30-year relationships, right? How do you replace that? What kind of marketing do you need to get out a friendship of somebody who's not there, of his friends of 30? That's a lot. It's a lot. It's a large network that he had, and how do you bring it to market? So
so now it's all on your shoulders, and me
and my remaining partner, we're putting our heads together, saying, okay, we have to do this, we have to do this, we have to build this, we have to help, it's crazy.
Are you considering bringing in another partner, or are you just going to try to handle it all yourself and take on those roles, absorb them?
I wouldn't mind bringing on somebody that knows these specific things to do. Like in the beginning, when I was saying you can just build a piece of software and it might work, it might not. You get to the point, we went through a business accelerator to raise capital from VCs, and they said that's like number one or number two big mistake of most entrepreneurs is thinking, hey, we can just do this all. It's more about the networking and building the relationships with others in the marketing world, in the tech world, in the investing world, because like I doubt Uber just started as a website and they just grew from there, right? They had to have financial backing.
You build a website and they will come.
Yeah, it's not that. Maybe it was with Facebook and that's their story, but I doubt that happened exactly.
Well, even then, I think they were networking within the universities. I think they were getting the word out.
So you still need, you still need networking. If the right person came along, that would be fantastic.
Yeah. So you're open to that. Wow. I mean, it happens. It's got to happen, when that type of thing. Well, I guess it's similar to a partner just kind of leaving too or whatever. But for now, the remaining partner, though, that challenge of now picking up the pieces but still, you have the vision still. You still have the passion for what you're doing. And you're talking about VC capital, or you were getting funding. Was that? We talked a little bit about this already. Yeah. The challenges, because you do have a very complex situation over here, and what they gave you some advice, and or they're trying to get you to make it simpler.
On your fifth, sixth, seventh pitch, and you're still trying to explain how these tokens can pay the business owner and they can hold them, and then could be NFTs involved in the future, and GPS coordinates, location of customized ads based upon a person walking in a business. You're like, they don't know what the ROI is on that. It's not like there are 500 companies with a proven track record that have done these specific things. There's not even 5, right? So they tend to really wonder about that. And let's say they do have a risk part of their fund. Say they get 50 million and their first 10 or 20% might be high risk. Well, they may put that right into pharma because that's going to be 1,000 times return. And they just do that over and over and over every year. They just place their money with pharma, and then you need one to pop, one or two. Right?
Sure.
And they make that back.
Sure. Numbers game. Yeah.
So, what they would say is, okay, well, why is it so complex? Do you have a simpler model? You might just want to stick with the TV side of things. And
Yeah.
that seems to be something I think in the tech world, like I think we want to build the software with the most options, or we want to fix the most amount of problems right now. And we do, but it's not necessarily market testable on 1,000 people. And so when a VC capital is looking to invest, they want to see 1,000 people doing something that's better than what they currently are doing. And so if you put out 5 options or 10 options, you're reducing that crowd to only 100 people. So now they see that as more risk, right? So that's one of their things, is why keep it simple, solve 1 or 2 problems. And like number 2 on their pitch decks, you have to build a pitch deck, and the first slide is the problem. What is the problem? And then number 2 is the solution. Well, we had like 10 things on our problems and 20 things on our solutions. Oh, we'll fix this, we'll fix this, we'll fix this, right? And immediately they go, no, you can't do that. So the advice would be, if you're going to raise capital, or if you're trying to get an investment from somebody that may not even understand the tech, that early on in your idea, you want to kind of build out, this is the problem, even if it's 10 problems. Here's the main problem I'm going to solve, and here's the solution, right? And then you can focus on those 2 things, and then you build out a few people that you can test that on.
Yeah, I think that can translate to a lot of businesses, agencies, even. Like for me, like building. Now this is in the 5th year of building my agency and growing well, or doing well. But at some point, like I was solving a lot of problems. Every website's a problem. Like I had all these unique problems, but I eventually identified a specific one, and it was the first one was to solve this problem for agencies and the issues they were having working with outside teams and the communication and all this stuff. There was a problem I identified there, was very specific, and I started to solve for that problem. And I one agency, next agency, and next agency, and so that would be eventually. You'd have enough to be like, we solved this problem. But that doesn't mean we're not solving all these other problems along the way. Like you said, like the other 9 problems that you also solve along the way. But this is the main one you're focused on. And that sounds like what they would be looking for is at the heart of it.
Yeah, they need that one problem. Examples. They can say, okay, well, if 100% or 80% said yes, and you still fixed it, well, then it's replicatable. And that's what they're looking for. Yeah.
Replicatable. That's right.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, that was important too. Like I said, what I'm talking about in my agency, it was something that I'm like, if I could solve this, and there's lots of agencies out there. Yeah. So if I can do it for this agency, then I went to the next agency. I got another one. We solved it for them, and there was a little flexibility in there, so it could adapt to different things. But it was replicatable. I know that I could keep going.
Yes.
Although I'm trying to slow down a little bit because it's getting a little madness around here. I'm good. I'm going to try to pause for a minute. But no, but it is something now that I know this is how we did it. This is how we got in front of the agencies. This is how we all the pieces are figured out, and now it's just replicating it, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
Then it's
that's
scale
definitely a part of it with VC capital is figure out the problem, fix the solution, and then marry a few customers, bring that to them and say, okay, now if I did this to 10, I could do this to 10,000 with this system that I've developed. Right. They're looking for that simple handoff of here's a can of Coke or special bubbly or whatever. Can I hand this to somebody and they like it? That's like, they just need to know validation. It's market validation. They would say, do you have 5,000 people clicking that green button in your app? And I'd say, well, no, it might be a couple hundred. He's like, yeah, but it's not enough. I need to know, a couple thousand
people really want to click
uncle.
that thing.
yeah, not your uncle, not your dad, not people that you know, but people that you don't know. Will they have that intuition to go into the app, go to this page, 4 clicks in, 2 clicks over there, bring down the drop menu, and then click that button? Like, it's too complex. So simplify it, keep it replicatable. Then we can say, okay, we can show in our growth pattern, you can be replicatable and produce profit, then I will take the profit. I'm sure that's what they're thinking.
Yeah, that's what they want.
That's what they want. Yeah.
So let's talk. So let's see if you're headed in the right direction here. So you have a lot of complexity. Let's talk about what you actually built here with Tweva. You've touched on it. You've talked about it a little bit in between things. But what is this? What is this Tweva we're talking about that brings all these things together? And what are the benefits? Who your target? Who your target? Who's your audience?
So Tweva is I'll say it in a brief way. It's like a social TV channel for your city. So I've had longer elevator pitches on it, but if you think about it, it's a social TV channel that the community can participate in for a business and for influencers in that city. So if you think about right now, if you go get a piece of pizza or a cup of coffee at a coffee shop, no one's going to allow you to advertise on their digital screen. So with Tweva, you can walk up to the digital display and say, hey, I'm an agency. I know some of my target customers are here. I'd like to put an ad on that screen. And while I'm at it, I'm going to add it to the barber shop next door and to the other coffee shop across the way and a few other locations around here. And maybe $5.
Figuring out where their target market is and who they want to get in front of.
And extremely cheap because you're not broadcasting this over the satellite, down through the executives, through the private jet at the TV company, right?
Right.
You're literally going right to the business, right to the restaurant saying, hey, I just want to put something on there. And so this is the digital TV channel. I call it city-based because, it could be multi-city, but I want local relevant content on that display, not just ads. I want things like 4th of July just passed, right? Can we show the 4th of July parade and some kids walking by picking up the candy or waving the American flag? And then somebody shoots fireworks. They want to share that to the community or, something. And it's just community. It lives for a little bit. It doesn't last for a year. It's short-lived, maybe 48, 72 hours, something like that. But it's a way to share content.
Oh, so it's short-lived content. And is it like, how long is the content? Is it just like, are these ads or are they more podcasty? Like somebody could just get on and start talking about stuff or whatever?
Yeah, it could be either. Yeah, I want it to be small businesses and then also community content. So I've put it into everywhere in my city except the city hall, right? They're still waiting on some sort of approval, but all the other buildings, they have a Tweva TV and they put things on like when events are happening around town, when the city might be doing something, or the soccer renewals or the soccer games. Like soccer's popular with the kids now, so when's the sign up? They put that up on the screens. And then also a contractor could walk in while he's renewing his license or something and say, hey, I want to put my lawn care business up on the screen. So other people are walking through here. And then a small business, let's say a plumber or electrician or a paver or a pool builder, they might see this content at their local restaurant. They want to add a little bit of content, so they can add content. And each person's content is going to be a little bit different because I think we're sick of the 30-second ads, Okay, this is why I'm really great. I'm the best company in the world. You got to call me. I've been in business for 37 years. And can we fit it all into 30 seconds, right? That's a little bit, you could jokingly say TikTok is even worse because you're trying to do it in 10 seconds, but they're trying to entertain you. So I'm going to call it infotainment, but not long form, not short form, middle form content. So think about it, a couple minutes of the plumber getting out of the truck, shaking the homeowner's hand, and then fixing something. Now, imagine you're sitting at the bar, you're eating your food, you got the sports, you got something else, and you got this plumber guy who's fixing something. It kind of looks like a little bit like this old house, right? A little bit like a home makeover.
It's showing you how he's doing it.
It's showing you how he's doing it. But then you look over in the bar, it's like, you look over at the bar and you're like, is that the guy on TV? Like,
Yeah.
Right. Like, this is
I know
how
him.
local
That's
it could
Joe.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Joe. That's the guy right there. And you might say, Joe? And boom, you got this little connection of a relationship in a small town from a TV that would never happen before, because Joe's not going to spend 10 grand on a commercial to be one time on the ESPN channel or something, right?
So it's a dedicated TV in there, and what I think, so you make it really easy for somebody, because like you said, the idea of getting an ad on any TV program is like way overwhelming, especially for a small business. It's not even gonna, they're not even gonna think about it. Like, that's not for me. I don't have the money, or I don't even know the avenue I'd take. But this, you walk up to the owner of that business or to the screen, or, how do you just make it real easy?
There,
like right there?
Yeah, if you're just there, or if you're within the vicinity, or you could just open up the app and start advertising. I mean, the idea is more local, but it's not going to stop somebody from advertising not in their city.
Right. Or do you have do you have a mobile app?
So mobile app.
Okay.
Yep. So they could just upload a video and start their ads on specific TVs that they're looking for.
Yeah.
Or they would call a local rep who would come in and help them. Hey, let's, don't put that video. We might want to clip this piece out. Might want to wear a hat or comb your hair. Like, we need a little bit of quality in there.
Oh, so there is somebody like actually looking at the stuff, make sure it's...
Yeah. We don't want the wrong content or like shaky camera syndrome on there. Like, what is going on that Tweva?
It's Bob. Hey, there's Bob on. He's like drinking on his porch. He's
yes,
like just
exactly.
talking
You
whatever.
uploaded the wrong video.
I'm gonna buy a spot. People that don't even have businesses, they're just like, I'm gonna hang out.
I'm just gonna put myself on the screen. Yeah. We need a little bit of
criteria.
There's a little bit of criteria. You can't upload that. Shared content has to be approved by local, reps is what I call them in the city. They're going to kind of, like Facebook groups. Somebody always has, like, they're the moderator in the Facebook group.
So you got the community aspect.
Yeah. But the idea is that when I first put them in, I was sitting at a bar. It was 11:30 at night, and they were putting on old Snoopy Peanuts memes. And I thought, that's kind of lame. Like, okay. And then she would just be like, wait for it. And then I saw like 8 or 10 people on a row. They were kind of like waiting for it. And then it showed up, and 2 seconds later, they all read it, and they were all laughing in succession. And I thought, whoa, that's kind of weird that might be something where, as a community, instead of somebody sharing something on that tiny screen on their phone, they're all looking at the joke and laughing together. Oh, I remember, blah, blah, blah. So this could be something a little bit more, right? But I had to see it happen.
Yeah. It's kind of like, you see too, like, you have local celebrities or like business owners that have like billboards everywhere, and you see their face everywhere. You'd be like just walking into businesses. You get to know these people and what they look like, and you build a kind of a relationship with them via this TV, and then you bump into them one day.
Yeah, exactly.
Or
it's the first person on your mind.
Yeah, top of mind.
Think about like a chiropractor or something. It's, do you really have to say you're a chiropractor? You really have to stand there with the Superman pose and be like, call me, I'm the best.
Yeah.
Or could you be like, take it out of the office, go out to the car, and show somebody, when you lean a little bit over to one side of your car,
what you're doing here is you're leveraging basically what people do in social media. You're sharing free content. You're not hard selling people. This is what we do. Call this number. Mm-hmm. No, they're just getting to know you. They're getting to know you and learning from you, and you're building your authority, and it's all local, which I love. That's something. Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the larger version of it. There's a lot of complex pieces in there, but
that's the thing.
Like the generic understanding of the new idea.
That's the thing. I think we're going to need an episode 2, because I want to get I want to go into the underlying tech and the challenges there and like all that stuff. There's so much more we could talk about. But no, I think, and I'm excited to see it in my town here someday. I know you're going to do it. You're going to do it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we're going to get it
It's
going.
to spread. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I knew that guy. That guy was on my podcast.
That's right. It's for the locals. It's for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
No, it's very, very cool. So, like I said, there's so much, but we covered a lot of great things here. I think there was a lot of useful information for people, and just from, the tips around patents, wasn't expecting that one today, which is cool. It's things that I don't, maybe I could have a patent. Can't patent WordPress plugins. WordPress is an animal in and of itself.
You got to have the process, and then
there's a whole thing.
Something unique,
Yeah. Well, WordPress being open source, or the type of license it has, it's really, really hard to literally when you have, because I've been through this deeply, and I sell plugins, but even if you have a premium plugin you're selling, anyone could take that code and do whatever because it's so.
Yeah, it still has to be quote unquote open source, right?
Yeah. The only thing we could, we figured out we were selling, themes at the time. And it was the only thing we could potentially protect was like the actual styles and design. Not the underlying code. Yeah. But it was very weird. They were very weird. We had to meet with them, and that's a whole other story. But
you have to send your data. If it's something complex, you have to send your data outside, calculate it based upon whatever variables. That's different, right? And it's like weird in the patent world. They don't say processor. They'll say they say like other words instead of memory. It'll be in this random access something chip, meaning memory. And they have to use these words so that when somebody else says memory, it's like, well, no, you're not competing. I'm even lower down on the explanation of what I do.
Wow.
So you'd have to do similar with this calculations, forming an opinion based upon this AI piece, and then it spits back this information that's completely unique, and it can't be done without this type of server processing power. It's amazing.
Right. That's the key, is like all the stuff happens outside the code or through API or whatever. Yeah, that's where you can.
So it's crazy.
Well, Dave, if somebody wants to find you on the World Wide Web, number one, I think they can go to, was it Tweva.com? TWEVA.
Yeah, it's on Tweva. Yep.
And
Tweva,
where
any of the
are you
social
on LinkedIn?
Pieces. Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. We have a social media presence on all the top 10 socials. So just search Tweva. We have, we didn't talk about the trademark side, but that's a whole nother world, right? You have your patents, your trademarks, and copywriting. But we're the only Tweva, so TWEVA.com.
Awesome.
And just hit us up anywhere. If you're a small business, you want to be on TV, even if you're a content creator, you create content like a podcast, or if you go to little businesses and you take pictures for them, they probably could help. They could benefit from a TV showing the content that you make. Yeah. So we're really looking to help that next, almost call it like Web3.
Oh, let's not go there. I think we're
a whole nother
Web3, crypto, and all that good stuff. Well, you have actually. I'm actually going to end this, but you also have a podcast you're thinking about, or you're doing.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
As well.
So I'm working on the cover art and the intro and the music, and what our idea is to interview all the small businesses that necessarily can't be on like a coaching, a podcast, but they want a little bit of spotlight for what they do. All the small businesses that we're talking to, I'm like, hey, you creating those short, YouTube shorts? No, I'm busy. Okay, can I create them for you? I'll invite you on a podcast. We'll do a little interview, and I'm looking to talk to those small businesses and help create them some content.
I love what you're doing for small businesses. All right, I'm going to stop it there. Until next time, Builders Crew, thanks for stopping by, Dave. It's great talking to you. Good stuff. That's all for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed that. Again, please subscribe if you haven't already, and give us a thumbs up if we deserve it. If you want to comment on this episode's page, provide me with requests on topics for future episodes, or inquire about being a guest, please find your way to thebuilders.fm. You can contact me there or add a comment under these show notes.
Now a word from our sponsor, my agency, Unified Web Design. We build custom websites, features, we maintain websites, we work with agencies to fulfill their web design and development needs, and more. If you're interested in our services or are looking for an agency to work with as a partner to build awesome sites for your clients, feel free to reach out to me at unifiedwebdesign.com. There's a handy contact me link at the top. Fill out that form and it will open a ticket, and that ticket will find its way to me. Thanks for joining me today. We'll see you next time.